When it comes to your finances, you want to have a grasp on what is actually going on with it. And a key way to do that is knowing some essential numbers. So we've come up with 6 essential numbers that you need to know about your finances. Hi, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Tasha with One Big Happy Life, and we help you find balance, build wealth, and live happy. Everything that you need to create the life that you want. So last week, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, we released our monthly net worth update, which was really exciting because it was like this huge $40,000 almost increase in net worth because the markets are recovering a little bit, which is exciting. But I asked over on Instagram how many people were tracking their net worth. And it was a 50-50 split, which was really surprising to me because over in Wealth Builders Academy, our first step, the first thing that every single person does is to know and understand their numbers, because you've got to know where you're starting in order to be able to properly chart a path to where you want to go and to chart your progress. So today we are going to be talking about 6 numbers that you should definitely want to know all the time.
Now we're going to go through these numbers one by one, but to help you out, we've created a worksheet to guide you as you're figuring out your own numbers. And you can get it at onebighappylife.com/numbers.
So starting with number 1, which we've already touched on, your net worth. So your net worth is a measure of your overall financial progress. You want to see your net worth going up over time because basically every single person that is in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, basically if you're not right about to go into retirement, chances are you are going to need multi-millions in order to retire comfortably at the lifestyle that you're going to want to live, which is like a regular middle class lifestyle. You're basically going to need at least $2 million.
And if that's news to you and that's shocking you right now, then you definitely need to start tracking it immediately, because that number has been floating around for a while. And so that shouldn't be, brand new and innovative information. That's something you got to get on right away.
Yeah. And there are so many reasons why you want to know your net worth. So like I said, already tracking your progress, but also estate planning, which we talked about in this month's masterclass in WBA when we're talking about how to plan for and manage risk. And one of those ways is estate planning. So how much is your estate worth and who's going to get what after you're gone? How are you providing for your family? So tracking your net worth over time is really helpful for that. And so how do you actually calculate your net worth?
So the basic formula is you take all of your assets, value of all your assets, subtract any debts that you have, either those that are specifically associated with them, like the mortgage on your house, or just debts in general, like credit card debt. And then at the end, you have your net worth. So assets minus all of your debts, liabilities equals net worth. And so that's the calculation that we do every month to see how everything's going.
Now, I feel like we could do a whole video on just net worth and explaining how it works and, especially assets versus liabilities and what counts as an asset and what doesn't. And we're not going to get into that in this video because we've got like 5 more numbers that we want to cover and talk about. But the one thing that we will say is it's just a general overview. It's not specific. So for example, you'll include your house in your net worth, but you're not going to do things like look at, okay, well, how much exactly would I pay to a realtor if I sold this house? Like, what are my costs of liquidating the thing to getting the cash? Like, you do not need to do that kind of super deep down to the penny analysis to do your net worth. It's just a general, am I on track? Are things getting better? It's kind of like a temperature, of your overall financial health.
Yeah, and so you can pull all of those numbers really easily just doing a few Google searches on any major asset that you have. Should be fairly simple. If it is really difficult to find the value, you probably don't need to worry about it.
Okay, number 2 that you'll need to know is your financial freedom number, AKA your retirement savings goal, your nest egg, however you want to call it, that chunk of money that you are saving so that one day you can stop working and you do whatever you want with your time and your life. Maybe because you expect one day you won't be able to continue working, which is true for a lot of us. So you want to make sure that you know how much that actually is.
Now, you might be saying, well, didn't you just tell me that it was going to be about $2 million, so I should just be shooting for that? And yes, we did throw that out there because it's kind of a ballpark, but everybody's tastes and preferences, how they want to live their life, where they're going to live, how many people they're going to live with. Are you going to live with your kids? Are you not going to live with your kids? Do you have kids? Are you going to support your grandkids? Are you going to travel? All that stuff changes what that number is. And sometimes it's a dramatic difference. Somebody might only need $1 million if they have like a pension that's going to support them for a significant period of time. And then other people might need or want 5 million, 7 million because their lifestyle and or needs, need that kind of nest egg and the income that would create. So that's why, although we said $2 million, and that might get you started, you definitely need to crunch the numbers for yourself, putting in, your own expenses and what you want to be doing after retirement.
And I want to take a moment to separate this idea of how much you want to have in your financial freedom, financial independence fund from your net worth, because your net worth includes all of your assets, regardless of whether or not they produce income. But your financial freedom number, we are talking 100% income producing assets because you need to live off of that money. So if you have a $1 million net worth and you own a $1 million house free and clear, well, that $1 million house is not going to be part of your financial freedom number unless you plan to completely sell that house and take that cash and live off of that cash. So we're talking income producing assets. So that could be, investing in the stock market, investing in real estate, and having ownership in a business where you're paid dividends or, owner draws, even though other people are running the company when you're not working anymore. So true sources of passive income to support you for the rest of your life. And the reason why you need to know this number is because you need to know what you're trying to hit. It's like, I'm going to use a golf analogy, even though I don't even watch golf. And it's like, the hole is like way over there. It's so far. Oftentimes I'm like, how do they even know where it is? Because I don't feel like you can see it from where they are, right? Can they always see the hole?
I don't think so. Neither of us play golf, and I've never actually gone to a real green. Putt is my experience golfing.
And so they must know though where it is because they get really, really close, but it is far. And so, if they had absolutely no idea, if they're just like, well, the hole is somewhere off in the horizon, let me just hit in any direction. Well, if you hit in any direction, sure, the ball's going to go somewhere, but it could be going in the completely wrong direction. And that is not what you want. You want to be like golfing. I should have never used this analogy, but like for par, aiming for par, right? Par is the thing, getting under par.
Yeah.
Whatever. But the point is that you want to make sure that all your strokes are getting you close to the hole. Right? And that hole is your nest egg where you get to retire and be comfortable and live the lifestyle that you want to live. So you've got to know what your end goal is.
Okay. Now that you know exactly how much money you need to have whenever you are ready to retire and you want that to be financially independent at that point, you need to figure out how much money you are going to need to save every single month or every year for it to grow and then, ultimately be enough money at retirement. And what we call that is your minimum savings rate. How much do you need to be saving every month to be able to have your investments grow to support your lifestyle at retirement? And the way that you figure that out is the easiest way is using a financial calculator that tells you how much you need to be saving. So you put in, I need $5 million at retirement. how much do I need to be saving every month?
And then you of course include like your expected rate of return, and you may want to also, is a good idea to account for inflation, so that way you make sure that you have enough money. But my favorite calculator, I don't know that Joseph has a favorite.
Oh, I was saving it so you could tell
Yes,
me about it.
it's Bankrate Save a Million calculator, and I like it because it has little sliders. Now, just for, because we often get asked about, well, how do you do the calculation? It is a future value calculation, and it's based on the time value of money, and you can incorporate an interest rate in that and discount the interest, whatever interest rate you're using, to account for inflation. So that was probably more than a lot of people needed to know, but I think it's worth understanding. It's not something that we can go into in this video, but Bankrate's Save a Million calculator is really awesome. I look at it all the time. And so in order to calculate your minimum savings rate, it's really important. Like Joseph said, you need to know what your end goal is, and you need to know where you're starting. And once you know where you're starting, which for a lot of people is going to be 0, and then you know your end goal, which might be 5, 7, 10 million even. Like our goal is to get to 10 million. That's our abundance number. But then you put that in there, and then you do the other inputs in the calculator, however many years you have to amass that amount. That's how you calculate your minimum savings rate. And you need to know this because you need to know how much you need to be saving today to hit that goal 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. But also, if you're not saving, that's an important number to know that you're not hitting, because if that way you can see how much more you need to save next month or next year by the time you start saving, and how much harder it gets to really push you to force yourself to start saving your minimum savings rate now.
Okay, now let's change gears a little bit. Those were kind of focusing on, building up your assets ultimately and your investments. But so now let's look at what you're doing with your income and expenses. So the next number that you need to know is your monthly budget surplus. And so this is a similar calculation to net worth, but instead of assets and liabilities, you've got income minus your expenses. And then the number that you get instead of net equity, it's your monthly budget surplus. Basically, how much money are you not spending or allocating already every single month?
Yeah, and when you're doing this calculation, we want you to look at your income after taxes and look at your expenses using your bare bones budget. So only your required monthly expenses. So things like your lashes, I keep coming back to lashes, or like hairdressers, blowouts, your gym membership, all of those optional things.
Happy hours.
Yeah, eating out, all of that stuff is not part of that. Is monthly budget surplus that you've decided to allocate to lifestyle spending. So look at your bare minimum budget. So your living expenses, your utilities, any minimum debt payments, any contractual obligations, and then what's the gap between your minimum monthly expenses and the income that you bring in. And your goal is to have that gap get bigger and bigger over time.
Yeah, and it's important to know this number because all the decisions that you're making about your goals in your life, it's distributing however much monthly budget surplus you have. And so this is the money that you make all those decisions with. Well, are you going to put some of it towards, going back to school or something like that? Any of those life decisions, this is the number that you play with. And so if you want to be able to make more decisions and buy more expensive things, well, then you need to increase this number. And there are 2 ways to do that. Of course, increasing your income or decreasing your expenses. And realistically, we want you to focus on the income side of things always, because expenses, there's only so much you can cut. So, as you're thinking, hey, my monthly budget surplus isn't really where I want it to be, then look to that income side first and see what you can do there.
Which brings us to number 5, which is your ideal income. This is like a dream number. The income that, not a dream as in impossible, but as like something for you to set as a goal. So what most people do is they look at their budget and their income as something that is fixed. And so they look at their lifestyle as something that has to fit within whatever income they have. And so they live in that little box that someone else put them in their entire lives. And we want you to break out of that. We want you to instead think about, like, of course you have to be real and think about, well, how much money do I have now and what can I afford? But think about, what life do you want to have? How much does that life cost, and how much income do you need to make to be able to afford the life that you want to have, which means the lifestyle that you want to have while also hitting your minimum savings rate.
Yeah, and we can say, I mean, this is anecdotal evidence from us personally, but the biggest changes in our financial lives have come hands down from us increasing income. And sometimes that means, so new jobs, that's an easy one, but also moving locations. And sometimes, it's easy to say, well, I can't do that because you like the way that you're living now.
Yeah.
And that is perfectly fine if you don't want to move, or you don't want to switch jobs because you like the way that things are going, but recognize that that is your choice and you're empowered by making that choice. And it's okay to say, well, I'm not going to shoot for more income. I'm good now. Even though I do still kind of wish my monthly budget surplus were a little bit bigger, it's okay to say, well, you're not going to attack it right now.
But it's funny that you say that, Joseph, because I also feel like deciding that the way your life looks right now is exactly the way that you want it to look does reflect on your ideal income. Because your ideal income is a play off of what you want your life to look like, but also what it takes to earn that income. And so if doing that thing, that next step to earn more income is not worth it to you, then that's what it is. You've decided making more money is not worth it. You value where you are right now. So you've already reached your ideal income threshold. And maybe it's just like on the expenses side, you can watch those fade away later. But I think that that's a valid way to look at it too. But we just want you, like, we do this all the time where we think about, where do we want to be 5 years from now? What do we want our lives to look like?
On almost a daily basis lately,
to be because
honest,
we're
looking at it
in a space, in a transition time right now, because we've got one kid about to, like, hopefully switch over to public school soon, one kid about to go to college, us potentially, Joseph, ideally working full-time inside of One Big Happy Life within the next 2 years. That's a lot happening over the course of the next 2 years. So of course we're talking about it and crunching those numbers. Where could we move? How much is it going to cost? How much money do we need to make in our business in order for us to make our ideal lives of being able to work together day in and day out, which for some people is a nightmare, but for us is a dream. How much is it going to cost us? And so we want you to start doing that kind of feeling empowered to take control of your income potential and your earning potential to create the life that you want.
Okay. So I couldn't agree more with that point about making that decision. Sometimes not making a choice to do something, that is your decision. So yeah, I completely agree. The last thing is knowing your financial freedom date. And so all of these other numbers are ultimately helping you have the information to work towards this date, which is when you have enough money to do whatever it is that you want to do. If it's retire, switch to a lower paying job, like you've got enough money to be independently wealthy enough to do whatever you want to do. So you've got whatever freedom you need, whatever you've been thinking, oh, well, when I have enough money, I'll do this. The day that you do that, that's your financial freedom day.
I do want to caution you, though, against that thinking of, I'll do this when I have enough money, because that stops a lot of people from taking action in their life. Like, one thing that I see a lot is people who are interested in starting their own business. This is the FIRE movement. Basically, a lot of people are interested in starting their own business and they won't do it unless they're financially independent first. And they're like, great, now that I'm financially independent, now that I've spent 10 years working in a job that I hate so that I can become financially independent, I will then turn around and now do work that I love. And so I want to caution you against defaulting to that. It may be that that's the only alternative you have, but chances are, if it's something that you love doing, there's probably someone out there that's making plenty of money doing it. So you can both do work that you love or that you enjoy, that you find fulfilling, and also work towards financial independence. But the reason why we want you to know this number is because we don't want you putting it off. Too many people, because it's not right in front of them, they get bogged down in the day-to-day financial management, the day-to-day things that life throws at us, that they don't plan for the huge like meteor that's heading towards your planet in 30 years. It's coming, and there's so much that you can do to plan for it. It's coming. And so knowing the exact date that it's going to hit you, you can make sure that you've created, like, I'm going to go super sci-fi here, your sky net of satellites that creates like this invisible barrier around your planet to keep your planet safe. I love sci-fi. So that's why that is the analogy that I use there. But basically, we want you to have solid goals that you are aiming for, that you know whether or not you're on track for, because we don't want the time to come and you're not ready.
And you might be thinking, well, I'm not making as much money as I think I'm going to be making. So should I really be thinking about it? And the answer is you should always be thinking about it, because the longer, more advanced you think about these things, the less you actually have to do to still hit the number. Mm-hmm. So if you start saving, 10 years earlier than you otherwise would have, you save yourself so much money. You don't have to save nearly as much every month to be able to achieve the same goal. So the earlier is always better when it comes to your financial freedom date, in terms of looking at it, figuring out what it's going to look like.
And the last thing that I want to say about that is that this number can change. Also your ideal income. So these are things that, like, goals that you're setting for yourself. Those numbers can change as your vision for your life changes. So once upon a time, like back 8 years ago, when Joseph and I were talking about, okay, well, what do we want out of life? What do we see ourselves doing? We saw ourselves saving $1 million and potentially retiring at 40, right? And then over time, we were like, you know what? I don't think $1 million is going to be enough. And also it's like, I don't think I want to retire at 40. I would rather find work that I love. And that was really the thing. It's like we were both doing jobs that we didn't super love. There were things about it that were just like, I can't imagine doing this for 30 years. But now I have found something that I could totally imagine myself doing for the next 30, 40, 50 years, basically forever, because I enjoy this type of work, which is helping people create their best lives and take control of their money and use that to create the lives that they want. So now our goals are different. But the point is that we're constantly reevaluating to make sure, and course correcting to make sure that we're in line with where we want to be. And you can do that too.
Now you might be thinking that was a lot of information, and I understand, but it can be simple. And to help you out, we have the worksheet to guide you as you're figuring out your own numbers. You can get it at onebighappylife.com/numbers. So go get it, rewatch the video, and figure out what your numbers are as you go through. Write it down. I promise you, you will not regret it. It is going to really be important as you're planning out your finances for the future.
Also, don't forget to share this video if you found it at all helpful, because there are plenty of people in your life that could also be really helped out by having this info and their own little worksheet. All right, so we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.